12. God's promise and our hope. Hebrews 6, 9-20. But, beloved, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation, though we thus speak. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labour of love, which ye have showed towards his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. And we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. For, when God made promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he sware by himself, saying, Surely, blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thee. And so, after he patiently endured, he obtained the promise. For men verily swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them an end of all strife. Wherein God, willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things, in which it was impossible for God to lie, we might have a strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope set before us. Which hope we have, as an anchor of the soul both sure and steadfast, and which entereth into that within the veil, whither the forerunner is for us entered, even Jesus, made an high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Hebrews 6, 9-20. The problem among the Hebrew believers is now apparent. First, Jesus was to them their Messiah. This hope may have become dimmed by the turn of events since the Ascension. When would he establish his kingdom? Second, the Hebrews still believed that they had a valid high priest in Jerusalem. He was near, and the ascended Jesus remote. When Paul returned to Jerusalem, the leaders of the church there urged Paul to go with others to the temple for purification. Acts 21, 23-26. The temple ceremonies and sacrifices obviously still had validity for them. Only the destruction of the temple in the Jewish-Roman War, AD 66-70, ended that relationship. Before the fall of Jerusalem, Rome itself did not see Christianity as another religion, but simply as a dissident group within Judaism. Hebrews gives us the theological reasons which required a clear-cut separation. At the same time, Hebrews enables us to understand the continuity with Israel's faith. Hebrews thus gives us blunt statements requiring separation while commending continuity. We see this in verses 9-10. The Hebrews are in line with the Mosaic law in their ministry to need and in their readiness to help their Christian brethren in particular. Calvin spoke very strongly of the importance of charity in commenting on these two verses, saying in part, quote, For he intimates that God holds himself indebted to us for whatever good we do to our neighbours, according to that saying, quote, What ye have done to one of the least of these, ye have done unto me, Matthew 25:40, and there is also another, quote, He that giveth to the poor, lendeth to the Lord, Proverbs 19, end quote. The Bible, from beginning to end, has much to say about charity as revelatory of true faith. Here the Apostolic Fellowship commends the Hebrew believers as faithful to the Lord because of their care for the brethren. This does not mean that charity acquires merit, but rather that it manifests our faith and our trust that God's requirements are best for us and for all men. Notice that this assurance comes from the pastoral group. Quote, We are persuaded, end quote. Quote, We thus speak, end quote, verse 9. Quote, We desire, end quote, verse 1, and so on. It is a company of men who so speak. It is their desire that all the Hebrew believers show this, quote, same diligence, end quote, that so many already manifest and that they persevere, quote, unto the end, verse 11. This is to be done, end quote, the full assurance of hope, end quote, or faith. They are urged to, quote, be not slothful, end quote, but to follow those who, through patience and faith, quote, inherit the promises, verse 12. More literally, this reads, quote, are inheriting, end quote, even here and now. Then Hebrews turns to God's promise or oath to Abraham. Oaths are made before God, for God, who cannot lie to make an oath, is a remarkable fact, as W.F. Moulton wrote in verse 17, quote, confirmed it by an oath, literally, mediated with an oath. When a man confirms a promise or declaration to another by solemn appeal to God, between the two, God is mediator. Condescending to man's weakness, that the certainty may be, quote, more abundant, end quote, God thus confirms his word, at once the promiser and the mediator. God, the promiser, if we may so speak, makes appeal to God, the hearer and witness of the oath. We cannot doubt, as we read the whole passage, that there is a special reason for the emphasis thus laid on God's oath to Abraham. The writer dwells on the confirmation of the divine word of promise, not merely because it is the first recorded in sacred history, but because he has in thought the declaration of Psalm 110:4. To this, as yet, he makes no reference, though he has quoted from the verse repeatedly. It has been without mention of the divine oath, but throughout the section before us, he is preparing the way for his later argument in chapter 7, verse 21. End quote. An oath now has little meaning, but then, and throughout most of history, it has meant the end of all doubt and argument because it invited the judgment of God if broken. For God to swear an oath to Abraham meant that God on his own placed his being on the line in support of his promise. God promised to bless Abraham, and Abraham, assured of the fulfillment of the promise, lived in full confidence that God would keep his word. Verse 15 tells us that Abraham, having received the promised gift as a fact, and therefore endured many trials, for God's promise by oath was to Abraham the same as the thing promised, God having said, quote, surely blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thee. Verse 14. Man's promises offer a hope that something will be done. God's promises give the full assurance of actual possession of the thing promised, even if there is a time lapse in between. In all things among men, an oath settles the matter, according to verse 16. The oath ends all controversy or strife. How much more so does not God's oath totally settle the matter? Verse 18 refers to, quote, two immutable things, end quote, God's promise and his oath. Through God, who cannot lie, we are given strong encouragement and have found a refuge, altar or sanctuary in Jesus Christ. We can therefore hold fast to the hope set before us. This hope, verse 19, is, quote, an anchor of the soul, end quote, and a, quote, sure and steadfast, end quote, one. Quote, the veil, end quote, refers to the veil of the temple, separating the most holy place from the holy place. By faith, we enter into the inner shrine, and we are a part of the fulfilled promise here and now. By faith, men of old were citizens of the city of God. Of course, our, quote, forerunner, end quote, Jesus Christ, has already entered into the heavenly Holy of Holies, and there represents us. He is there, our great high priest, quote, forever after the order of Melchizedek. Verse 20, having him, we have no need of an earthly high priest now, because the reality has replaced the type or, quote, stand-in, end quote. Although the use here of the anchor as a symbol is new, not appearing in the Old Testament according to Westcott, Clement of Alexandria mentioned it, Pedagogus 359, as a device on Christian rings, and like ichthus commonly used. The word hope in verse 18 is elpidos, its stem elpis. It means expectation, hope. According to E. Hoffman, quote, in the New Testament, the words for hope never indicate a vague or fearful anticipation, but always the expectation of something good, end quote. The paganization of language has led us to reduce terms juridical and non-juridical to an emotional meaning, whereas often in the Bible their meaning is legal. We have here an oath, a legal fact, and the oath is our ground for hope or expectation. We are therefore not involved in an emotional wish, but in a legally guaranteed fact. As Hoffman also noted, quote, "In many passages, elpis denotes not the personal attitude, but the objective benefit of salvation toward which hope is directed." Thus, Galatians 5:5, Colossians 1:5, Titus 2:13. The fulfillment is eschatological, end quote. While we know this hope subjectively, it is never itself simply a subjective thing. Elpis, hope, and agape love are, quote, essentially related, end quote, in the New Testament. The God of hope is in the God of the future because he totally governs and ordains it. This hope rests on Christ's kingship and high priestly status, and our standing in that hope is God's ordination and our apprehension by faith. If we make faith essentially subjective, then we also make our hope in Christ subjective and therefore problematic. We can summarize the matter thus. First, Jesus Christ, our last Adam, 1 Corinthians 15:47 following, cannot be our king if he is not our high priest, who makes atonement for us and then regenerates us to his new humanity, his new human race. This is God's doing, not ours. Second, because he is, with the Father and the Spirit, our predestinator, John 15:16. Our future does not depend upon us, but upon him. We can therefore, with Abraham, regard our hope as the promise of the God who cannot lie. It is thus our certain and assured hope. Third, as our high priest, Jesus Christ is even now actively working to bring his kingdom into total power in and around us. Fourth, that kingdom requires much effort on our part, beginning with the simple requirement of Christian charity, verses 9-11. Fifth, we are not here on earth to get what we want, but to do what God ordains, and we must not be slothful, but devoted to those, quote, who through faith and patience inherit the promises, verse 12. We have a calling that transcends ourselves.